and people can just jump on as they come. My name is David Simpson. I'm the director of AOK Arts, the organization that is sponsoring this event. And we provide artist residencies for young emerging artists. And Autumn was a summer resident artist this past summer, and used our garage as a giant studio to create very large pieces of work that were really stunning to see develop over the course of the summer months. AOK's been around for about 4 years, and we have been serving the needs of young artists for all that time, and the big benefit of that is that it brings us into close contact with inspiring young people like Autumn, or like Tiana, who's standing in one of the windows up, well, on my right, I don't know where she is on yours, who is also a summer resident artist this past summer. We get to build community with extremely talented, inspiring, interested young people who are making their mark on the world, and we get to provide resources and support in order to facilitate that and enable all of us involved, not only, hi Sue, not only the artist, but us as well, and everyone who's involved. Anyone who's involved with AOK will tell you that it's a community in which everybody grows and everybody is challenged and everyone is benefited, and everyone benefits. So but I'm not going to talk very long. I'm going to turn it over to Autumn, and because Autumn is an extraordinary human being and an extraordinary artist. I'm proud to know her and call her my friend. And I hope that you see the talent in this young person as much as I do. So Autumn, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, David, for that amazing introduction. So I'm just going to probably start because there's a lot of introduction in my presentation, but if you hear the rustling of papers, it's just because I like to be awkward, so don't mind that too much. Let me get this screen share up. Oh no, I am unable to share my screen.
Carolyn, can you make her a co-host?
Help.
We got
all learn.
And let's see here.
Okay.
Me?
All right, I just made you the host, Autumn.
Okay, thank you.
With most.
I'm gonna get on this. Wow. Okay. Gonna take the power out of Google's hands. Okay. So, as you may know, the title of the exhibition is Where the Sun Don't Shine, and I will be shining light in some dark crevices. So as the introduction, hi, my name is Autumn, but it would have been winter because I was born in the blizzard of '96, but that's a little bit too cold. It could have been emerald too, but my mom didn't really like the color green, so that's also out. Anyway, about me. I was born in Philadelphia as a little sock to parents that pushed me to binge on information and overachieve at all I did. Our family history and subsequent pressure resulted in a body of work hinting at borderline obsessions with early '90s cartoons, Byzantine art, and something I, in polite companies such as y'all, call low-quality adult materials. This overachievement thing, the one I excelled at the most was making things hard for myself. Well, how? As a painting major at Tyler, the program was pretty contemporary, so needless to say, I had to enroll in 3 other schools to learn painting, drawing, and color, respectively. Another one of these overachievements was choosing one too many majors, one of which was history. but I kind of had to because the classes were so like Eurocentric. It felt like people of color weren't even subjects of painters, let alone painters themselves. So I had to travel where the sun did shine, and that was to the southeast, Santa Fe, New Mexico, to the Museum of International Folk Art. There, I spent 5 days in their library researching the history of respectability politics through art. Because as you may know, most academic histories focus on events and not cultural communication, especially not for marginalized communities. Here I discovered what I was looking for and more. I discovered Buffalo Soldiers, men, Black men who fought in the Civil War on the Western Front on behalf of a government holding their rights at the balance, saying, hey, if you win, we might give you some rights. And upon further research on this First Nations people, Black American interplay, I realized they're one and the same in Florida. Well, Florida under Spanish rule outlawed slavery all the way back in 1693. Wow. And was one of the only southward destinations of the Underground Railroad. These escaped slaves found refuge with communities of displaced Creek Indians called Seminoles. They formed a community. They shared crops, they tended lands together, they started families and became parts of the tribe themselves. So I sat on this info for a while, not really knowing what to do with it or how to, make art with it, but I would talk about it at any point. And then I got to the Cape for my first residency up there at the Fine Arts Work Center, and I found out about the Wampano and Nauset tribes there. Also noted. And I go on painting and creating and doing shows with all these ideas in the back of my head only to get knocked loose again by a hypocrisy one Christmas Day. We had many, many events, but one of which was absolutely ridiculous. Christmas Day, we're having a gathering and the police are called by our neighbors who couldn't even be civil on the stolen land that they were living on. So all these thoughts are circling around my mind, and then boom, Sun shows up, pictured in the bottom right corner. She's a representation of this mixed history of Black and Indigenous peoples, an amalgam not to reduce, but to symbolize what little we're taught about their history. So a little bit more about her. She's a naturist, humble to a fault, cooperative, and trusting. Is so trusting that she's seen in a little bit of consensual knife play in this painting. We can elaborate on that later. But why is she such a good person? Well, I feel like having all the bad sucked out of her in the womb would do that. Like, you know how twins have this like dichotomy thing, so one really good, one really bad, Cain and Abel type thing? She's a twin. I realized it, she's a twin. But whose twin? Well, 18, of course. She's 18, aka 18 degrees, the cold one. And yes, she definitely has absorbed all the bad. She even refined her cruelty into an assortment of related vocations: finance, domination, joining the clergy, even choking rabbits. But thankfully, they're masochistic rabbits, happiest when choked or used as a towel. So no worries there. So I've got these twins and this history, and I got to drawing, and then I got to the ever so lovely David and Kathy's house, or the Wellfleet AOK residency. And I transformed their enormous garage into something a little bit like this. The walls were tiled with drawings and color wheels and reference photos and everything. And I'm like, I have to put these ideas to paint. So I think this is a burden, but I can do it. Burden, what? Burden of proof. There we go. In law, it's the evidence required to tilt a jury in your favor. or in this case specifically, the claims we make to authenticity in our daily lives. See, these twins, 18 and Son, live in contemporary American culture in opposing fashions, quite literally. 18 on the left lives to blend in, fighting with her sister, yelling, "Think of the hostility. Think of how much the US hates cultural authenticity. Even the schools they put our parents in had the motto, kill the Indian, save the man." On the other side, Son says, no, she's the one with the fuzzy phone. For notifications point, Son says, no, we have to preserve our tradition. It's so important for us to be visible and active, so we can't be forgotten. We've lost too much to let ourselves be forgotten. The next step in this mock cultural trial is 51% plus a feather, 50% plus a feather. In law, it's the more likely right than wrong part of a case that tilts the scales in the direction. Or in this case, it's the one where the landing kick is the breaking point of 18's nose and Son's favorite stick, which is her security blanket, of course. So, where the sun don't shine, shines a light, or at least aims to shine a light on histories that were intentionally buried in education, but are ongoing within marginalized communities all across the diaspora. And I hope to use my work in this show and in perpetuity to spread awareness and visibility for all facets of the African diaspora, a sort of illuminated cultural history. So follow this journey with me on the Instagram and my website, autumnwallace.com. And if you want to learn more about Black Seminole history, I'll send the links in the Zoom chat. But now we'll open up to questions. Thank you.
Woo. So I would just say, just dive on in. If you have questions or comments or things that occur to you, just jump on in.
So Autumn, you know, the first time that we talked to each other, because we didn't really get to meet in real life because of COVID, I told you how I just loved this incredible, powerful message that you had that brings in so many different elements of who you are and your experience. And I always loved graphic novels growing up, so I just love the narrative behind your work. Were you ever influenced by any graphic novels or comic books?
Yes. One of the largest influences, just because it was what, aside from the Bible, it was what my dad would read me when I was going to sleep, Calvin and Hobbes. So I loved just the way things were illustrated, the anthropomorphic tiger, cat, stuffed animal sort of situation, and how they could do wordless comics, which is an idea that perplexes me to this day. So this is kind of my little step into the wordless comic situation. Any more questions?
Don't be shy.
So Autumn, I have a question, and I apologize. I keep turning my video on and off. I'm having internet bizarreness, so I don't want to crash. I want to just say how much I appreciated hearing the story behind your paintings, because I think that you have this. I'm observing. I mean, I met you the first time here on Zoom, but an amazing ability to explain things in words that you're also showing in your art. And I think that that is really cool. And I also had no idea what you taught us about the Florida, having the Seminole Indians and the history there. So I appreciate that piece very much. So I guess I don't really have a question, but that was, I just wanted to say my appreciation for that storytelling that you do both visually and with words.
Thank you. I added the resources in the chat for anyone that's curious too.
Can I say something quick? Autumn, I really appreciate how much empathy you have for your characters, how you really dive into, really try to understand all the people that you draw and that you paint. And I know that from getting to know you personally, but also through things I've seen written about you. And I admire your method. In a way, you're an actress to me in a way, and you put that into your art. And I love that you channel everything you possibly can, and you're not so closed-minded, and I have to use these colors, this palette, I have to use this approach every time. I think you've definitely found an aesthetic, but you also continue to surprise, I think, and that's what's so exciting about your work. And yeah, so it's no question, just commenting.
Thank you.
I would like to know, how far in advance did you know that you would come to Wellfleet to be able to do this artist in residency? And how did it actually influence your work being there? I mean, I know for me it was a very strong and very positive impression I got here from Wellfleet and from the whole Cape, from the Outer Cape, with all the different perspectives. So did that actually influence your work, or were you already determined what you wanted to do before you came here?
Through residency hopping for a little bit, I thought I could plan what I was going to do before I went to a residency, and that would just make me so clogged up or mentally constipated, for lack of a better phrase, that I needed to always react and learn a bit about the space that I was in before I started working. And I was always, I always needed to observe for a good bit of time. Even if I had the information at the ready, even if I knew exactly what I wanted to do, I didn't know how or what it would pertain to or what would trigger it to come out. And Wellfleet and the Cape were the triggers. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what happened.
Thank you.
No problem. Hello.
Autumn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I appreciate your work very much. I have since the first moment that I saw it. And I find the story that you tell interesting. But looking at the work, my first reactions don't have anything to do with the story that you're telling.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly what I saw in it had to do with acceptance of sexuality and the negation of the ideal body image that is imposed upon us. So I don't know if that's the question, but that's what I see, and that's what I appreciate it in your work. And every time I see one on Facebook or Instagram, I'm totally fascinated with it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely always a part of the work, and something that I've kind of made a pledge to do, like make sure that I highlight the things that society, like contemporary American society with like the Twiggies and the certain like ideal of beauty, would never make it into my work. And that I would make what is ignored by these like pictures, by these magazines, to highlight, because that's what I think is beautiful, and I want to show them in the way that I see them.
Yeah.
Thank you for that assessment.
Oh, thank you.
Autumn, I think that Can you hear, am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm Stephanie. Hi. I loved
Hello.
I loved your whole presentation. I love just the way that you talk about yourself and your passion, and it's contagious. And I think that it's just been really fun evening to just explore you and what you're doing. The topic of diaspora is so interesting, especially to be painting about that in the time of COVID, when so many people have had to leave their own homes to go live with other people and haven't been able to connect with their loved ones in the same way that we're used to. I'm going to send you a link. The Textile Museum in DC did an exhibit a few years back where they had invited craft artists to put together all different mixed media. Some were textile products, some were macrame, some were paper mache, some were actual painting. And everybody depicted a different diaspora, which they selected to create a painting about or an art piece about. And the whole GW focused on the topic for a semester. And so if you really are interested in this topic and you want to go a little further, there's a ton of, like, they came to it from a socioeconomic perspective, from philosophy, and all the faculty kind of joined together to talk about it. And then each piece has a write-up about that tribe or those people who experienced this and how they experienced it. And it's really fascinating because the topic is, you know, we haven't had as a people in this country to deal with that in a while. We got complacent, but we really are feeling it now with COVID. And so it's just an interesting time to be talking about that.
Yeah.
You can make connections. People can have a visceral connection to what you're doing because they're living it themselves.
Yeah, I hadn't even, like, oddly enough, I know the circumstances of COVID also probably led and triggered me to create these works, but I never thought about it in terms of like how it would pertain to the displacement of people right now with, like, you know, no stimulus money coming out. So it's like, where's rent going to come from? And like all that stuff. Like, of course, displacement is a topic right now that's, you know, prevalent. We can't ignore it. So thank you for that point. And please send me that link.
No, I think you're going to find it incredibly, it was incredibly creative, the way that this exhibit was put together. And the pieces that the people did were just mind blowing.
Stephanie, would you mind putting the link on the chat?
Sure, I can do that. I think that I just grabbed it off of, I think that this is the actual catalog, but also if you go into past exhibits at the Textile Museum, you can find a lot more information.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
So I really enjoy, I've known your work for a little bit now since, you know, Tyler and everything. And I have to say, I've always really enjoyed your use of the figures and, you know, how you like make these really dynamic compositions in your work. They've always excited me, and you know, I'm always, you know, surprised by stuff that you do. And I just wanted to tell you that I really think that, you know, your work is really strong, and you know, I'm just very happy to see you, you know, keep going. I did have a little bit of question about your paintings on the PVC.
Yes.
I didn't see are you using acrylic on those, or?
I'm using absolutely everything.
Okay.
Almost anything I can get to stick to it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's acrylic and limestones and all this stuff. Let me see if I can get close. So yeah, like I use acrylic to work up the surface and get a lot of transparency going.
Uh-huh.
There we go. So I can kind of like develop these surfaces where it's a little shiny, but maybe a little less shiny there and whatever. But then I'll also use
oil for color and ease of blending.
Oh, okay.
But then I also use pastels and so it's literally anything I can get to stick to it.
Wow.
But I do make sure that I build up enough layers of acrylic that the oil can't get to the PVC.
Right.
Because, you know, oil destroys even canvas.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's how it goes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, cool. I was just wondering, you know, I actually was kind of curious about the acrylic sticking to the PVC. Have you had any problems with that, or like, you know,
All the
does it
time.
come off?
All the time.
Yeah.
But the more layers you put on, the more it sticks.
Right.
So you can either do that or you can rough up the surface. with
Sand it
some-
a little bit or something. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
was curious about that. Cool. Nice
Yeah.
job. Nice work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
I love your work.
Thank you.
I had another question about Sunshine, the character. And so I know lots of writers always say that a character just shows up in the story, that they didn't plan the character. All of a sudden they're writing the sentence and that character is there. And I wondered if that was true, or if you had this concept of Sunshine and the twin, and then you drew it. Which came first, the idea or the image?
Definitely the image. I don't even know where she initially, okay, I do know where she came from. I know exactly where she came from. So 18 existed for a long time, and I always thought she was an only child. But as I went forward and I realized that Sun and 18 shared a lot of the same characteristics, like they were both the same height, they were both like the approximate age, they both hung around the same area. Like, I know this sounds ridiculous for fictional painted characters, but this is the world. And I was like, it makes so much sense why 18 is so like confrontational and Sun is not, because they were raised together and they've kind of like, you know, been reinforced and honed in their craft of of altruism or cruelty with each other. So yeah, she showed up in October. Sun showed up in October last year, 2019, when I said I'm gonna make 100 drawings just to process ideas, and 18 showed up in 2017 in duck season. The painting where you saw the, you know, masochistic rabbit being used as its house.
Well, as the mom of twins, I really appreciated that dichotomy aspect of it too.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I would point out that you can see the show on our website at aokarts.org. Just click on exhibitions and you can see Autumn's exhibition, really take your time with it, and also the other exhibitions that we have up there. Autumn, I appreciate Tim's comment about the dynamism of your characters. Something I've really loved also. There's so much energy and so much action in your paintings. Are characters that have such rich backstories, is that sort of like a way that you work generally, or is this something, you know, do you find that it helps your painting to really, you know, develop the stories for them, or is this something that sort of came out of the blue, or both?
It happens randomly. It definitely happens at random. Sometimes the image, like the full image, will come to me, and then I, through doing the painting or just seeing it complete, will say like, wait, is that the character from that painting from 2 years ago that went here? Or like, sometimes it's like that. And then other times I'm like, I need to go along with this theme. And then the theme, I'll say, okay, what characters go with this theme? How would they interact with each other? It's kind of like an experiment where I'm like, okay, this character is Coke and this character is Mentos, and we're gonna see what happens. So it's, do they live in harmony? Like, yeah, it's series of experiments. Sometimes it all comes out at once, and other times it's like the whole time is play. Either way, it's all play. Yeah.
Stu, I think you were trying to jump in.
Hi, Autumn. I'm Sue. I met you at Kathy and David's house about a year ago.
Wow.
Your work looks amazing. I echo what somebody else said, that I learned something in the history part, which is amazing. And I was so glad Tim asked his question, because I was also really wondering about the PVC. So that was really fascinating. I think especially those pictures that are there with you, those paintings that are there with you, I love the sense of light and space. It's really, someone else used the word dynamic, and that's true. I also love the variety of mark making. Like, to me, that's really interesting. And I like all the different mark making is really fascinating. I like that.
Thank you. So I'm trying to like get out of the way so that yeah, so there's the sense of scale and all that, but thank you so much. Yeah, it's the mark making and everything, just like the stories kind of came out of necessity, and then they've become integral. Thank you.
So you mentioned that you use pastel sometime, and I
Yes.
would hesitate to use pastel with painting because it has that tendency to rub off or blow away. How do you deal with that?
I cover it with matte medium, and then I cover it with whatever next layer of paint, so it looks like it's sitting on the surface, but it's just underneath. Because yes, I have had some pieces of paintings wash away in the past, and the sadness was a learning experience.
I tried working with pastels many years ago, and my way of dealing with it was also to put some kind of medium over it. And I found that the color change was so dramatic that I found it hard to deal with. You haven't run into that, I guess.
Thankfully, no, because I'm using the Neocolor pastels. They're water. I use two different kinds, the watercolor ones and the oil-based ones.
I see.
Yeah. So it's like the color only changes marginally for like the medium tones, but everything else thankfully stays the same.
Okay, so they're not chalk pastels. They're
No.
something else with a pastel-y color.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you done with these two characters, or are there future paintings?
They're definitely future.
They still have a story. They still have a story to tell.
Yes. 18 is she's already got some things going, and so does some. Nothing together. After this, I don't think they're talking. They're a little upset. But I'm sure that they'll come together again in the future someday. That's to be seen. Any more questions or comments?
What's next, Autumn? What are you working on now? Do you have shows coming up or residencies? What should we be looking out for at veggiemonster.com?
So that's actually a really good question.
Well, thank you.
Saturday, I mean, everything's been an amazing question, but you reminded me to tell everybody about stuff I'm doing. So Saturday, I'm releasing at least 5 new mini paintings. They're part of the Fricker series where I repaint history, like Rococo history with people of color. And they're all a little, I don't know, they're all little and they're all a little off at the same time. They're framed in a very Baroque fashion, teeny painting, big matte, chunky gold frame. Look out for them at noon on Saturday. I'm excited about those.
Cool.
Farther in the future, I'm going to be having a solo show at Ga Gallery right up in Provincetown.
Great.
So I can't say too much about it yet, but it's exciting.
Do you have dates?
Not yet. Everything's still up in the air because of the owners of the gallery are stranded overseas and have been since March.
Oh.
So when they can make it back to the States, we'll talk. But yeah, it'll be sometime next fall. That's very exciting. And there's gonna be more stuff that I'll be posting about with exact dates on the Catch Me Outside part of my website.
Great.
Any more questions for Autumn? It's nice to see you, Ed.
Since we have a couple of people that are new, at least to me, can we do a quick go around where we introduce ourselves?
You start, Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Fletcher, and I work with David at AOK.
Hi everyone, I'm Chelsea Lester. I am Autumn's friend, and we went to Tyler together. And I'm just here to support Autumn and also hear more about, Autumn's amazing work. So nice to meet you all.
I'm Kathy Fletcher. I'm married to David, and I am Autumn's biggest fan.
No.
I'm Yana Speranza, singer-songwriter and resident of AOK.
Hey. I'm Bob Henry. I consider myself a friend of Autumn's, and I'm an admirer of her work and a fellow artist and a big devotee of AOK arts. And everybody should support them.
Cool. I'm Tim McFarlane. I'm a painter in Philadelphia. And I met Autumn a few years ago when I was teaching at Tyler as an adjunct.
Awesome.
I love her work.
I'm Rita Radistitz, and I have been a fan of AOK for, 4 years now.
Long time.
Yeah, got involved right when they started becoming a nonprofit organization. So, and I had not seen Autumn's work before, and so I was thrilled to get to see it. So thank you.
Who's next?
I'm Ed Miller. I met Autumn at dinner at David and Kathy's. Hi, Autumn. We're kind of neighbors. I'm editor of the Provincetown Independent and a huge fan of AOK. And great to see you all.
Likewise. It's the best little paper around.
You bet.
I'll go. I'm Della Spring. I live in Wellfleet. I met David and Kathy on the beach many years ago. Got involved and have been big fans of the work that you do. Always impressed by the talent that you find and just the wonderful outlook you have about possibility. It's really beautiful.
My name is Bernhard. I'm a part-time Wellfleet resident, and I met David and Kathy and AOK also with Stella together, and was very impressed by all the variety of artists which are under that kind of roof, from musicians, dancers to painters, and I'm very intrigued and very sorry that there's no opportunity to see this work of Autumn live, because I think it's so much about texture as it is about and colors, that a lot is lacking. As good as and nice as it is to see that on the screen, but I think it needs to have the direct view, which is very unfortunate. We cannot do that. I hope that we'll be able to do that later on someday.
I'll go next. I'm Sue Anthony. I'm a collage artist who lives here in Wellfleet, and I agree with what Bernard said about Zoom is only better than nothing. And so it certainly is better than nothing. It's really nice to see everyone's faces, but it does make you miss being in person. And I met Autumn briefly at a dinner at David and Kathy's pre-COVID. And I met them and learned about AOK when they moved here to Wellfleet. So nice to see everybody again. And it was great to see your work, Autumn, even if it is not in person, not in its full glory.
I'm Allison Cochin. I live in Wellfleet, and I've been fortunate enough to kind of be in and out of Kathy and David's house often enough to see Autumn in her trance and doing her thing. And for someone like myself who's not an artist per se, it's just thrilling to be able to enter the process of someone's work. And that's what these residencies allow people like me to do. And I think it's beneficial not only to the artists, but to the common folk like myself who get to see and hear about the inspiration, and I'm just mesmerized by it. So I appreciate it. And I do have to run. But it's been a pleasure, and it's been great seeing you, Autumn. Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
Have a good night.
A couple of people left. Come on now.
I'll go next. Why not? Oh,
Jinx, go ahead, Jackie.
all right, perfect. Hi, I'm Jackie. I am a longtime friend and fan of Autumn's work, forever and always. And I always love hearing her talk about her work because it always changes and grows in such amazing ways. And I never think it can get better. And then it always does. I feel like I say that every time to myself. So great artist talk. And I'm enjoying hearing all of your sort of findings in your artwork.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Katie Mayo Hudson. I'm an old friend of David and Kathy's. Hi, Carolyn. I'm so sorry I'm late. I have two daughters that are also artists, and I was taking one to go buy art supplies while shuttling the other one to get her second tattoo. So that's my excuse. But I'm so sad that I missed your show. So hopefully David's recorded it and can send it to me so I can see. But I just love, of course, what AOK is doing. And Autumn, I've heard amazing things about you as a person, and I'm just kind of delighted to get to know your work a little bit. Oh, and I'm in Portland. I'm not in Wellfleet. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So
Portland, Oregon, did you say?
Not the East Coast Portland, the West
Portland,
Coast
Oregon. Yeah.
Oh my Lancer.
The real Portland. The real.
I was going to say you're a cool mom,
I'm
but
not
then
gonna
it's like
say
you're
it's
in
the real
Portland, so it's
Katie, I think we met. I'm from Eugene, so
I
we
know.
met at Kathy and David's. Yeah.
Yes, I'll never forget talking to you on the front porch, Rita. I was like, oh, there's Rita. So anyway, pleasure to meet you all, and what a great occasion to come together over Zoom.
Yes. So I think unless anybody has any additional questions or comments? Or Autumn, do you have anything you want to say in closing? No pressure.
Not necessarily, but thank you all for coming. And if you can subscribe to the newsletter, it comes out, my newsletter, The Sprout, it's on my website. I'll try to have a sign up link come through. I just say like, hey, this is what's happening, what's up, and then I try to give you a little thing to walk away with, like a nice podcast or a way to watch movies during quarantine. So yeah, thank you so much. It means so much for you to be here, and yeah.
I'm a big fan of Autumn's newsletter, so I second that. All of Autumn's contact and links and so on are on the on the website under the exhibition, so you can find out all the different ways to connect with Autumn's work. And subscribe to newsletters. There's a link right on it, so I encourage you to do so. Want to thank Autumn for sharing your work with us tonight. It is wonderful. I loved seeing it grow and develop on our walls of our garage this summer. It was such a fascinating and amazing experience. So love getting to see them in their full glory. If you want to learn more about AOK, you can go to aokarts.org. I will just do a last little plug. We are a nonprofit and depend on the kindness and generosity of supporters in our community. So you can make a donation there if you like at aokarts.org/donate. We're going to do these shows about every 6 weeks with new artists. So please, if you sign up for our newsletter or get up on our mailing list, you'll be sure to be kept up to date on when the next show is. Can't promise they'll be as outstanding as Autumn's, but we're going to do our best.